I still remember the exact sound my glass made when I set it down, that soft, careful clink people make when they're trying not to draw attention to themselves. Funny thing is, attention found me anyway. It was a private dining room in a high-end place downtown. Low lights, polished wood, the kind of room where money doesn't talk because it assumes everyone already knows it's there. I was working that night, moving between tables, blending into the background the way I'd learned to do. Head down, shoulders relaxed, voice polite, invisible on purpose. Then he laughed. Not a big laugh, not even an angry one. It was the kind of laugh that says, "This is for my friends, not for you." "Say that again," he said, leaning back in his chair. "I couldn't understand you the first time." I knew exactly what he meant. My accent, soft, southern something I'd spent years trying to smooth out without ever quite erasing. He repeated my words back to me, stretching the vowels, twisting them just enough to get a reaction from the people around him. A few of them smiled. One looked down at his napkin. No one stopped him. I stood there, holding the bottle, feeling that familiar heat crawl up my neck. Not embarrassment exactly, more like the sting you get when someone confirms a fear you already know exists. That in rooms like this, your worth is decided before you open your mouth. I smiled anyway, I always did, because from where they were sitting, I was just the help. A uniform. A voice meant to bring food, not thoughts. What they didn't know, what they couldn't have known, was that I'd spent years learning how language really works, how it's used to connect, and how it's used to dominate. I'd studied it, lived it, argued over it in classrooms on the other side of the world. I'd learned how power hides inside words people think are harmless. And right then I realized something important. This wasn't about a joke. It wasn't even about me. It was about how comfortable he felt assuming no one in the room could challenge him. So I stayed quiet. The dinner moved on. Business talk. Numbers thrown around casually like monopoly money. Big plans, big promises, all wrapped in confident voices. He kept cutting people off, steering the conversation, speaking faster than necessary, simplifying things that shouldn't have been simplified. I refilled glasses, I cleared plates, I listened. At one point he leaned in toward the man across from him, lowered his voice just enough to feel conspiratorial. The kind of tone people use when they think they're safe. "That part's standard," he said. "Nothing to worry about, just legal language." But it wasn't. And I knew that because I understood exactly what he was saying and what he was leaving out. My chest tightened. There's a moment when you realize silence isn't neutral anymore. When staying quiet doesn't just protect you, it protects someone who doesn't deserve it. I thought about my life, about the way I'd learned to shrink myself to survive, about all the times I'd swallowed things because it was easier, safer. And I thought about the people on the other side of that table trusting him because he sounded confident, because he looked the part. That's when I felt it, that calm, steady click inside my head. The moment you stop being afraid. I finished pouring the wine, set the bottle down, and instead of stepping back like I was supposed to, I stayed right there. "Excuse me," I said, not loud, not sharp, and I spoke in a language no one expected to hear from me. Perfectly. Clearly. Without hesitation. The room went still. You could feel it, that split second where everyone's brains scrambled to catch up with reality. Eyes widened. Chairs shifted. The man who'd mocked me froze mid-smile like his face hadn't gotten the update yet. I didn't accuse him. I didn't raise my voice. I didn't even look at him. I explained, calmly, precisely. I translated what had just been said and what it actually meant. I pointed out the discrepancy, the hidden clause, the part that changed everything. Silence. Then the man across from him asked me a question. In that same language. Slow, careful, respectful, I answered. That's when the balance of the room tipped. The mockery didn't come back. It couldn't, because mockery only works when everyone agrees who holds the power. The man who'd laughed earlier tried to recover, smiled, too wide, spoke too fast, waved his hand like this was all some misunderstanding. But words don't land the same once people realize you've been playing games with them. For the first time that night, someone asked me to sit down, not as staff, as a voice. I remember the feel of the chair, solid, heavy, meant for someone who belonged there. My hands were steady, my heart was loud, but it didn't control me anymore. We went through the details, slowly this time, every word measured, every assumption questioned. And with each clarification, I could see it happening, the quiet unraveling of someone who'd built his confidence on the idea that no one would ever call him out. No one yelled, no one stormed out. That's the thing people get wrong about moments like this. The victory isn't explosive, it's quiet, surgical, almost gentle. When it was over, I stood up, thanked them, and walked away. No applause, no dramatic exit, just the sound of my own footsteps steady on the floor like they'd always been. Later that night alone, I replayed it all in my head, not with triumph, but with clarity. I hadn't won anything. I'd just stopped losing myself. Because here's the truth they don't tell you. People don't underestimate you by accident. They do it because it makes their world simpler. And the moment you refuse to stay invisible, everything changes. So let me ask you something and really think about it before you answer. Do you believe people deserve a second chance after revealing who they really are? Or is that moment the only truth that ever mattered?